Hey, it's Rob Beeler. I'm here in the Beeler.Tech studios. MSG, another quarter, another report.
I'm in the MSG Tech Studios. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Another quarter, another report, right? You've been spending all quarter putting together your notes, collecting your thoughts, and getting ready to pull it together and to share.
I hope I'm ready. It's a lot of work. I hope I'm ready.
We'll talk through that process, right? I think that there's something to the fact of the work that you do to kind of pull this together. It's much different than the earnings report that we did,
Correct.
right?
Right. And that's going to start like in a week or two also. So it's never ending. So for the what I saw happen report, basically as soon as the quarter starts, so it's kind of tricky because right now we're in Q4, but I'm ending Q3. Throughout all 90 days of the quarter, I jot down notes while I'm at meetings or conversations or listening to podcasts or reading an article. And there's sort of like free form just listed in there. And every once in a while, I have a bonus idea that I try to expand upon and put it in there. And then you and I sort of make our date of when we're going to have this recording, right, October 5th.
Right.
And then I work back from there. And for the past week, I've spent an enormous amount of time just editing and whittling down everything to make sure it's going to go out Monday. And we have this interview on Friday, and it's pretty much all done. But I do take a lot of stuff. I wrote that 45 days ago. That's not right anymore. I just take it out.
Especially in our space, right? You 45 days.
Never changing. Like I thought that was right, and then something changed.
Right. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, first of all, so it's toward the beginning of this recording is, how do you get to the report? You email you, correct? That's if you want someone wants to get the report.
So if they want the report, I still do old school. They can send me an email.
Right.
I have a long Gmail, but I'll give you the simple old Yahoo old school email, which is msg@yahoo.com. So msg@yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list.
And we'll add that to the notes. I just want to make sure because I felt like that got buried last time.
Okay.
And people want to read along. Even at some point there might be a version of this. It's getting longer and longer, and for me,
I need feedback from you. If it's too long, let me know and I'll cut it down because then I'll have to spend less time on this.
Well, I always just think about it in terms of this recording. I obviously don't want to go too long. For me, I love this because I get a little bit of a preview. I get to see a little bit of how the sausage is made. Certainly helps me, preparing for this, thinking through, what do I actually think about this? Plus, I also just love when we go through this, you always are surprised at what I pick out. Yes. And I have cool things. Now, first of all, I was going to make you guess, right?
One thing to be clear, because people said, you didn't write anything about influencers. And I'm like, I didn't see anything in influence in the entire quarter. This is basically what I saw in the quarter.
In the quarter. That's right. Well, I was going to say, I want to bring up front your boys, the twins are looking for internships, right? So that's in there.
Right to the bottom.
There's no reason not to use this channel to do that.
Okay, you ready? Let's go right now. So I have twin boys, Trevor and William. Trevor's at Cornell in Ithaca. William's at Northeastern in Boston. They both want to do sports, whatever sports related is. And I sort of got it down where it's very interesting. Trevor wants sports analytics or sports operations.
Okay.
He wants to be the future Brian Cashman of the Yankees. And Will wants to do sports media or sports management. Maybe a commentator, don't know. So if anyone out there is listening and they have sports-related roles for a summer internship, or Will's at Northeastern with the co-op program, hit me up. Their information's in the email I'm going to send out on Monday, and let's get a job going for them. Nepotism is okay sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we have to do. I'll throw out there that maybe esports would be something for them to,
I have a list of 3 things which I'll put in the next update. It's esports, maybe gambling, and cannabis. But esports is my favorite if you're interested of what's going to be for a future job down the road.
I think you're absolutely right. All right, so let's pull
up the report. One more thing before we start?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, this morning I listened to a podcast of Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway called Pivot via Vox. And to me, those two are the creme de la creme, the top of the world when it comes to talking about tech and they get into politics. I think you and I are the same thing. We're just in the middle of the road.
Right.
But we try.
I'll buy that. Yeah, well, no, and we're closer to some pieces of it than they are.
Oh, but they're freaking geniuses. They're so good.
Right, exactly. That's right. All right, so let's pull up the report, right? And so I'm gonna say right off the bat that there was no way you guessed really what I picked out. And again, here's the report. I'm just gonna fly through it here real quick, see if I can find it. Again, you can see we've got a lot of great stuff here.
You're gonna find something that'll be like, oh, I didn't really mean that one. Then I'll have to edit it out or change what I put.
That's okay. Maybe that's part of why people.
Which one you going to?
Nielsen or ComScore should acquire an exchange to bring in raw processing power. To me, I just sat there, and that was when my head just went. I just can't. I want to. I would love even the genesis, even if you disagree, the genesis for that idea.
Okay, so it's funny because Nielsen has two pieces. They have buy and they have watch, and they might be reselling one of them or changing. My point here is Nielsen and ComScore, Nielsen both feel like old school companies to me. Mm-hmm. And yes, they've made some acquisitions. I don't remember the genesis of this one either. Maybe they made some acquisitions. They acquired Excelate. But it feels like if they could acquire an exchange like Index, right? Mm-hmm. All the raw processing power that Index has of looking at billions of transactions a day, a minute, whatever the number is. It just feels like that DNA getting into Nielsen could make such a difference with what they're processing and how they think about the data and just make everything exponentially faster. I think that I don't remember where that came from. It's interesting you picked that one up. But that's what I was thinking about that one.
Here's where
you probably have a different point of view.
Well, I look at it and go like it's amazing to think of a measurement company buying the actual transactions in the sense that what that does to the measurement in terms of the quality and the next generation of that, which both Nielsen and ComScore are involved in helping measure much larger than ad tech worlds, right?
Right. And think about Nielsen. Nielsen was just measuring TV, and TV was so simple for the last 20 or 30 years.
Right.
It has got a couple order of magnitudes more complicated, right? Mm-hmm. And they've probably grown a little bit to keep up. If they acquired a bandwidth company with machine learning and algorithms and everything else, could that just inject a little more into what they do and make them faster and more efficient? I don't know. This is why I pontificate and write these things.
Yeah, but that's right. But that, to me, that's a great stopping point. You think, again, this is what I love about the report, right? There's your thoughts, right? And again, we'll go through some of this stuff. And I just sat there, and again, it all it tells to me is the layers at which this stuff is done. You have to really understand. People in ad tech think about nothing but ad tech. We're recording this during advertising week, which is a week.
Wait, what's advertising week? I don't even know what advertising. Someone told me advertising week today is just a way to get people out of New York into New York.
I love that. And right, well, I go, anything that I do, I'm surrounded by people who have no idea what I do, and they have no idea, I have no idea what they do, and we're still advertising. Right. So,
and it's funny. You asked me what the genesis of that comment was. I don't remember what the genesis was. But of course, you pick out one obscure one, which I did not think you would pick up. But I'm glad you picked up about my boys, the Twins, looking for jobs in sports. But that one's a little obscure. But go for it. That's why we do this.
Well, that is part of the bonus. That's part of the bonus. So,
yes.
My thought is that you do have the overview, but I thought what we might do is drill into a couple of the other ones first.
Go for it.
Look for things like that. Again, another one I thought was quite interesting and something I'm obviously watching a lot of is audio. And your comment here is audio is most like Facebook news feed, and you should almost think of it as the audio feed.
Okay, I actually remember the genesis of this one. Yeah, so I was talking to my friend. Oh my God, I forget the name of the company is. Okay, and we were talking about audio. And when you go to Alexa, you say, "Tell me the news," or Google, "Tell me the news." What it basically is. It's a news feed. It's just stringing along story after story after story and putting them together. Eventually, there'll be an ad break in there. But when I thought about it more, it was a news feed. The Facebook news feed is an audio feed. They're so similar. They just haven't figured out monetization yet of what they're doing there.
Interesting. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, and that's
Right, it's like 12 stories in a row, and the question, like, how do those 12 stories link, and how can you take in a different direction? How do they learn from what you're asking, or fast forward or skip? But it's really a news feed. It's an audio feed, and the
it,
news feed is probably, if you think about it this way, the news feed is arguably one of the greatest products ever invented in tech, and the best monetization engine we've ever seen, besides
mhm.
Google search.
And it occurs to me, I had a ride home again, a lot of stuff going on in the news, and all my favorite podcasts were already recorded, and like from last Sunday, and they're already too late, right? And I think what you're getting at is just a different audience experience of these things, and you can mash that together, curate it. I think there's some really interesting pieces, and then I think monetization comes next, right? And
Right, right.
whatever that's
So,
going to look like.
so this morning I woke up. It's like, hey, Google, tell me the weather. I get the weather. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened in sports yesterday. And I said, hey, Google, tell me the sports news. Right. And it jumped right into right into NBC Sports telling me sports news. A little highlight in there, lasted about 2 minutes, and then it stopped. And I'm like, that was kind of a disappointing experience. Why couldn't it give me ESPN News or CBS News or Bleacher Report or something else instead of just one? Like, I don't want just one. I want to hear different pieces of the conversation.
What might be interesting, and you've seen the new the Courts app, right? Where it's almost like more like a chat bot experience
Yes.
for news, right? There may be something with that whole audio prompting. Just keep going, right? Like you were like, tell me more, right? And they stopped. It doesn't know to do that yet. So that could be an area for some really.
And then I think if you actually go through this whole, quarterly update, what I saw happen, I've mentioned audio multiple times, and I think I have a couple instances in there like audio will be monetized. I have no clue how, right? Audio is so much easier to use than typing for most of us people, right? There's just so much that could happen. Just no one's figured out how to monetize that perfectly. But
Yeah,
of course, Google or Facebook or Amazon will.
they're in the right position to do so. We'll talk about your friend. And again, I'm everyone. I'm just hitting the highlights here. I'm hitting.
Okay. Which one you go to? Okay.
Right. Ariane Walker,
Yes.
evangelist Alexa Automotive at Amazon.
Yes.
Right.
So I was on my phone one day looking at LinkedIn, and my friend Ariana Walker, who used to work with me at JD Power when we sold Correlate to JD Power for like $1 or $0, right? All of a sudden I see her new title is the evangelist of Alexa Automotive. Oh, and I think she might have sent me an email saying, hey, on your quarterly updates, use my personal email instead of my work email, right? Because I like personal emails so they don't change. And I'm like, wow, evangelist of Alexa Automotive at Amazon. What an amazing job, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's going to figure out or be part of the team that figures out how to get Alexa, either the hardware or the software, into physical cars and then be able to use that to tell stories or whatever. And I'm like, that is a great job. It's got evangelist in there, it's got Alexa, and it's got Amazon and automotive. It's just fascinating title. One of the best titles I ever heard. And I assume you think so as well because you call out that piece.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I just reached. It hasn't been published yet, but I had reached out to you about an article I was writing about how in the car is the next screen, right? And the fact is that with 5G, the ability for the screens to get bigger, to get be even more connected in your car, a lot of things are about to happen in the car. At the same time, will screens be deprecated in favor of voice? In some ways, yes, right? In terms of like,
well, I heard a stat the other day about Comcast cable, and it was like either 70 or 80% of the people who channel search using Comcast or FiOS, or Comcast Xfinity, actually talk into the remote control instead of trying to look for a number.
Interesting, right?
Right. And I know when I go to someone else's house, like, oh, boom, ESPN, because trying to find whatever channel 350 or 451 is impossible, but you talk. So I think that's sort of what, and I think the word I heard was manicured, right? Could you use whatever you want to buy with your fingers and then manicure something using voice? I don't know.
So the other area, voice certainly showed up in this, retail as well. You definitely follow, and I think again, Aspirationally, you want to talk more about retail and dive in deeper. I thought some of these things were pretty useful. I wanted not clarification. I wanted you to expand on, for those of us that aren't following retail as closely as you are, retail needs to make big bets in technology and training. Training was also
so one of my overall message in this entire piece is training. Like, I when you get up top to the summary, like, I think everyone needs to hire more analysts, as many analysts as possible, coming from a fellow analyst. I joke around, you could hire 4 or 5 junior analysts instead of one very highly compensated salesperson, probably, right? And I even had a conversation today with my buddy Mark Howard. I'm like, Mark, hire an analyst. It'll be the best thing that ever happens. But they don't know how to use them. I'm like, just ask them questions like you used to ask me. Just hire them. Okay. So I think that. And then I also think, again, because of what I saw, when I do a lot of my consulting, I end up like training people who are analysts about how to do their jobs because they don't really know. And sometimes their bosses don't know. So the more training you can do, and training's a complicated one because sometimes training's not done very well. And I think, Rob, you do training as well, right?
Yeah, it's difficult. I was going to ask you in terms of that was a possible area of discussion, right? Just in terms of what that training looks like and what do you think works,
Well, so you and I probably have 2 different perceptions of training. I think sometimes you train in a big forum and you get up on stage and you have conversations. There's probably 20 or 30 people in a room. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. The way I like to train, I like to go into an office, sit somewhere, have people come up to me and ask me questions about stuff I do or stuff they're looking for, or I would just walk around from person to person. Hey, do you need any help? I see you're working on a spreadsheet. Can I help you? How'd you pull that data? Oh, this other data exists over here. How about that? I personally think that, you probably need both pieces of training, but that's the way I like to train, one-on-one, using their real data.
I will tell you, I am in this, this will go toward some of my approach as well. I should have probably stopped you short of like, I have started to move away from the traditional training type of approach of lecture, right? What I believe in a lot is crowdsourced consulting. And I believe in the idea of that kind of sharing the knowledge. One of the things I'm doing with Beeler.Tech and one of the conversations I'm trying to spin up, and I just love your thought on this, right, is I want to do a call for trainers and trainers. Think of it this way. Every organization you probably work with someone was responsible for putting together a deck on GDPR. Everyone essentially did the same homework, right? Why can't we share notes? There's no grading going on here, right?
I want to crowdsource everything. I think people should take whatever I put in this document, cut and paste, and say, here's what's going on in the industry. Go for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's part of what so that's one of the reasons why I brought it up is as I'm thinking through that, I couldn't agree with you more. The analyst trying to think through training right now as it typically works in that get 20, 30 people in a room and talk about something inefficient, takes you back to school, which, the efficiencies just aren't there. So let's talk about
that. And my method, I want to walk around an office, eavesdrop. Whenever someone has Excel up on the screen, I see a big red dot, green dot. I go over there like, oh, can I help you be more efficient in how you do that?
There you go. There you go. I like it.
That's my idea of training. And there's probably something in between, or you probably need both. But I think there's so many companies out there that just need so much more training and they don't realize it. And again, there's such different degrees of training, but they need to figure it out to be able to succeed long term.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to publishers. Again, all of these have great points. I just want to make sure we hit some of the parts out of it. You already talked about the especially for publishers to have analysts. I'm trying to help a company find an analyst right now, right?
How much you paying?
Well, that's actually my next piece of research to figure out exactly what I can afford.
So here's my gut feeling with that. I think you hire an analyst out of school, like one of my kids, if it's sports related, you pay them whatever the going rate is. What's the going rate for an analyst out of college? $65,000?
Probably, right?
Right. I think you hire one of them, but then you need to train them. Right. So you need to hire the analyst and train them the right way. And if you train them the right way in the first 1 or 2 or 3 months, I think they're golden for you for the next couple of years.
I think that's a good strategy. And I think the more I believe that a lot of colleges have moved to understanding how important data is going to be for the future. and
Absolutely.
teaching kids those skills. That's what we need, right? We need more
Yes.
talent in the industry talking about that. So publishers need that. I also thought that some of your insights and thinking about the direct sales team, right? It just, the thing that popped out, my quote, not your quote, right? But is you can't sell yourself out of the current situation, right? You can't throw an army of
Yeah.
sales issue. You need to get tactical. You have to get smart and even understand where direct sales fit. And you mentioned going vertical or category, and again, I'd love for you to expand on some of what you think about the direct sales piece.
Well, so first of all, I think overall, most traditional publishers who have a direct sales team, the RFP business, they're seeing a 5% decline year over year. It feels like it's happened every year for the past few years. 2017, 2018, I assume again in 2019, but who knows? It feels like every once in a while they get a good quarter that's a blip and they get all excited, but then that's not maintainable.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do everything you can to offset that and do the best you can. It's not going to be easy. And then I feel like every publisher has 3 or 4 or 5 verticals they go after, whether it's business or tech or CPG or pharma or health or retail, and that you might not need category specific sellers, but you should have analysts or sales engineers who specialize in a vertical, who specialize in retail or specialize in finance to help your sellers do a better job and or go to those client or agency conversations, but be an expertise in that category.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sales is going to become more specialized, right? And so
yes, that's a great way of putting it.
Right, and so I think that's kind of the approach there. One thing that and again, this is alludes to some research that you shared recently in one of your events. The brand safety and the ratings and the possible impact that it has on publishers. I thought you could share a top line piece on that. That'd be interesting.
So the early hypothesis is that if your site is classified as, and I'm using the Google ratings, teen or mature, as opposed to G or PG, you might see a decline in CPMs because of that. That is the early hypothesis. We're trying to figure that one out. It's extremely complicated with many variables, but that's the hypothesis right now.
Yeah, I think that there's something to that, and part of it is because in the brand safety world we live in, you really don't have any margin for error, right? To show up on some content with your brand next to it, if takes a screenshot and a tweet, and you have a PR
and that CMO gets the email from the CEO, what the hell, and that's just a bad conversation to have.
And that all goes right downhill all the way through. So
the hard work you've done gets undone in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. You mentioned OTT. That was another thing in this, and how huge and how big OTT is going to be. I do have a question. I'm curious if you've had some thoughts about this, right? Which is, to me, as I think through my experience at home with various OTT platforms.
You're talking about my point right there. The frequency of ads on Hulu is horrendous. I watched the Salmon Sisters pitching something like a Microsoft tablet about 75 times, no exaggeration, during the show I was watching.
Adam Mosier at Hulu, I just send him a note every time my pod is too long. I just sit there and go like, hey, I have a train ride home. I got to get the episode finished, and you're killing me here.
Yeah, but you know what I did? I just went and paid the extra $4 for no ads. So maybe they do it on purpose.
There you go. Well, there you have it. There's one way to drive revenue. No, my actual point is that I always wonder about the I'll say non-endemics. I mean, like the smaller digital publishers getting into this space.
Oh, you're talking like Cheddar?
You almost run into the same issue as apps do, right? Where I almost think that the general consumer is only going to have a certain number of OTT offerings they're going to gravitate toward, and either we're going to have too many options, and so some of them are going to die out, or just the big ones stay bigger. And so I'm almost curious, like it's almost like an app store type of issue.
Well, and you're going full circle. This is why the cable bundle works oh so well. Right? I don't have to buy 15 different apps, 15 different OTTs. I just buy one cable bundle.
So the bundling of OTT services, that's the future, it sounds like.
Okay, I'll put that in the update for next time, bundling OTT.
Maybe. I mean, I think.
Or just get the Roku TV and the Roku channel and you're good to go. And by the way, I bought a Roku TV for $399, 50 inches. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I have enough of the other devices I got to cycle out at some point to move on to that. Right. Let's move forward. You know, speaking of OTT, you did mention that for marketing, you know, OTT is hard to buy, right? I think everyone knows that's where everything is going, but we have not solved for making it easy.
There's no aggregator. It's not been figured out. It's so complicated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if the OTT companies will allow an aggregator to come in here. I'm not sure if Google or Facebook or Amazon can figure it out. But if you want to buy OTT and you're a marketer, you know, it's ridiculously complicated to go across all those different platforms and try to figure it out.
It is. And it's really holding back, you know, just holding back the spend, right? Again, the spend should go to where people are. OTT is a better ad and content experience than just
as long as the reach and frequency is working properly.
That's right.
Right. Now, hold on. I was watching Hulu and it was Handmaid's Tale, right? Mm-hmm. And there was most of the episodes had 4 pods with 2 or 3 or 4 commercials with a little thing up top to tell you where you were, which I loved. I had one episode I watched. I had a 2.5-minute ad for some organic eggs, right? And it was the best ad, and I loved it. It was 2.5 minutes, and I was mesmerized. But I have no clue what the brand was, and I never saw it again. And I wanted to buy those eggs, but I don't know what they were because I need to see it 3 or 4 times before I remember. Unlike the Salmon Sisters and, you know, the Sleep Center and Flatirons, I can buy a new mattress. It's amazing how we remember those things over and over.
Right. Well, there you are preaching about frequency and the right level of frequency. And when it's not relevant, don't show it to me. And if it is, show it to me again.
Well, it's the same thing. Like we turned, you know, 10-1 is the beginning of the quarter. I watch ESPN with my wife every morning. We went from like Ford and Chrysler and insurance to all these bulb head ads we have to work with, you know, about, oh, get this flashlight or get this thing. And it's just so funny how it changes completely. The same thing will happen in January.
Yeah. So let's move on to agencies, and there's a lot here.
They need to rebrand themselves. Agencies should not be agencies anymore. I think that term is toxic. I think they need to be called something else. Holding companies, agencies, change the entire name and become something else. Whatever it is, rebrand yourself as a good marketer, make it happen.
You know,
do you agree?
I do, but what comes to my mind is how the word network, or, you know, being a network, is toxic. That is the first thing that popped in my mind.
They're both toxic terms, right? No one wants to be an ad network. No one wants to be an agency. They need to be called something else.
Right. Meanwhile, everyone technically is a network and everyone technically is an agency, right? You're working on someone's behalf.
Okay, I can see what you're saying. But
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm more commenting on our ability as an industry to burn terms, right? Like, don't call it programmatic anymore. Don't call it programmatic anymore. Call it automation. Was an attempt made like last year, and everyone's already forgotten about, right? You know, so you got to be careful with it. But I do think that you're right, and of course the consultants are coming, right? And you know, they've got some wind behind their sails.
Well, it's funny because I wrote in there that Accenture Interactive is growing at over 20%. That's what they said in the earnings call. Mm-hmm. But I have no clue what the base is. They could have gone from 100 million to 120 million. I do not know.
Yeah, that's interesting. But definitely to watch. And I will tell you that I'm obviously doing a lot of research around fraud, and it is amazing the amount of work the agencies have to go through to address and fight ad fraud.
Yep.
Because again, I think that brands will come in and do more of the media buying. I think there's a piece of that they have no idea what they're getting into until we make, you know, the pipes cleaner in which all this stuff is bought.
Yeah. I can just say one thing. Thank God you're only taking one bullet at a time, because every one of these bullets has like a 2 or 3 minute story. You and I could do this for about 6 hours. Which would not be fun.
I know. I'm very aware of that. I am very
29 minutes. Like, I think the number, we don't say this, the number is like 35 minutes we want to be at.
Yeah, we're coming up into the point where I have to be a little bit more cautious. I've already
Yes.
skipped over some of my key things I thought were great and just wanted to get to this. You already hit the direct correlation between brand safety and programmatic CPMs. Your theory, right? I
That's
think
hypothesis. Yes.
yeah. Already touched on the Nielsen ComScore. Now in retrospect, just a matter of timing. I'm going like probably wasn't the biggest point I could have made. All right, we'll learn. We'll get better at this.
Exactly.
App Nexus. So again, there were a couple things here that you talked about with now with what's going on with App Nexus and the acquisition Xandr. That you've had a little bit more time to think about, right? Since the last
I think connecting a point. I think if App Nexus and AT&T and Xandr does this properly, they could be such a great one-stop shopping for buying programmatic OTT television.
Mm-hmm.
I think App Nexus had a good DSP. I think they're going to take their DSP, they're going to morph it into a video DSP. They're going to throw literally hundreds of engineers against this, and it's going to sit on top of DirecTV and everything else they could put on it, so a marketer can actually go buy programmatic interactive television, OTT. That's my hypothesis.
Yeah, well, I mean, and think of who they have at the helm. Think about who they, some of the people that are involved in that, and you can see that, right?
Now the question is, will the other television and cable companies allow AT&T access to their inventory?
Right.
$64,000 question. Don't know, but they're going to try.
Right.
Or because those other companies build another platform that sits on top of all their inventory that's going to be as good as the AppNexus DSP. Now, part of me also thinks, could AT&T have bought the Trade Desk instead? Right, probably not 1.6 billion, but 6 billion. And would that have been a better, faster DSP, which has more been playing in the video OTT space? Don't know, but it's a lot more. Was a lot more money. Would have been a lot more money.
And it would have been yeah. I think AppNexus probably was it to your point about like pivoting to more of a video DSP. I almost think that AppNexus is more ripe for that kind of change than taking what Trade Desk is doing and messing with that model. Maybe interesting. I make the point just more for my audience about that pre-bid is really maintained by AppNexus engineers.
I had that in here. Would I get that from you?
No, I'm getting that from you. I'm getting that from you.
Okay.
Yeah, I sit there and I think of things like that, and I just that's the kind of thing where I really want to make sure, right?
I don't know what happens. It's the wrapper wars, right? There's two wrappers people use. It's pre-bid or it's index.
Right.
But what happens at pre-bid? I don't know.
I'm concerned. Yeah. I am concerned. So I like to see that go.
And it's funny as I'm going through all these points, I'm like, that's good. But go on. This is more fun.
Yeah. No, I think so. Just as a quick, we should get to the kind of the summary, right? I mean, you've got this bonus material. I love it. It's like inside the mind of MSG.
Yeah, this is my favorite one about breaking up the triopoly.
Yes.
There's so much thought that has to go through this, and at the bottom is there's so many potential unintended consequences of breaking them up. It gets scary. And the biggest unintended consequence, if you broke them all up, right, and there's 9 different Facebooks, is it ripe for a Chinese company to come in? We all start using that, and then our data's with China. I don't know. They get scary.
I think of these things a lot, and a mutual friend of ours who used to run Ad Monsters has been writing recently about advertising being obsolete. And there's a part of going through that, thinking through what Scott Galloway talks about with all the stuff like that, and the amount of power that these companies, the big guys, have. And again, the idea of sitting there breaking them up and all those unintended consequences is something really, really has to get thought through.
Right, and then you saw the hearing between Zuckerberg and all the senators or the congressmen, right? Congress people. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to break them up.
No, right.
But if we got 5 of us in a room for a week with whiteboards and a couple analysts, we could come up with a good point of view of like, okay, this is what could happen if you do this.
Yeah, maybe get that in the right hands. Yeah. Um, so let's wrap up. I think one,
That's
we
my
hit a
thought.
lot of stuff. There's bonus materials that are always great with
Wait,
this.
the one bonus material is my friend Scott Churkin, right?
Yeah,
Because
let's hit that. That's worth it. That's worth it.
yeah, I
Please.
try to write every quarter about someone who's left the ad tech world and sort of gone on to greener pastures or whatever. And I highlighted this here. So all in all, it took him over a year to find the right job.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So if you want to get out and do something that's different or tangentially different or significantly different, people are not going to come knocking at your door saying, get this job. It is like a full-time job to try to find that job in a different category, different industry.
I think that's it. You have to put in the work, right? To
Yes,
help.
it's a lot of work.
And his approach was not to just go around and interview for things. He went and had conversations with people, learned, and then the opportunity came up based on what you said here. I think that is so key, right? And you know, one part I'll just say, because we've talked about this before, about what else outside of ad tech, or if you're an ad tech, where else might you go? You know, there is one thing that is always kind of holds true. All jobs are going to change in the next 5-10 years, if not sooner, because of technology and everything else like that. And what people really look to hire are people who have synthesized multiple things. I remember, just and this is a quick tangent, because she still sticks in my mind, talking to graduate students from an advertising school, and the girl had a dual degree in biology and advertising. I have absolutely no idea that those two worlds are even connected.
Yeah, I worked for a pharma company.
But she's immediately interesting to me, right? It's immediately interesting to me because I'm just sitting there trying to think through, are you ahead of the curve here or not, right? Coding and law, right? Those two things, when you think of blockchain, you think of all those things, people are going to have to, just the ethical
right,
issue.
But the point is, you have to consciously think through this, what you want to do, what you're good at, what you like, to be able to do that. It doesn't come knocking. It's not like, hey, you run sales for company A and company B comes to try to poach you. That's easy.
Right.
If you're a company A and you want to go to a totally different company, you need to work hard to make that happen.
Right.
That's the point.
And in summary with that, right, goes into the fact that, to your point, people should be looking for analysts, certainly an area of growth and understanding the data. Again, whatever your background is, going in that particular direction, I think adds flavor to that. And benchmarking, right? I think that was the other piece that's key here, right?
Well, it's funny. If you look at the benchmarking, I actually went to Wikipedia and I got this sentence. Benchmarking allows organizations to develop plans on how to make improvements or adopt specific best practices, usually with the aim of increasing some aspect of performance. Mm-hmm. We all want that. This helps us get there.
Right. So start benchmarking.
Hire more analysts. Train the hell out of everyone.
I think that's a pretty good place to.
If you can't hire the right people, then hire hands-on consultants to help you get everything done.
Get it done.
That's what this is what I saw happen in Q3.
That's right. That's the ending
my
point.
myopic approach.
Is there anything you thought I would have brought up, or anything like that you felt was glaringly missing? Because otherwise, of course, they'll get the report and read through it.
Not off the top of my head, but I like your randomness of going through pieces. I'm like, oh, where'd that one come from? This is fun.
Well,
you always keep me on the ball.
That's part of the whole plan here. So
what my aspiration is for next quarter or the following quarter to get Kara Swisher or Scott Galloway on this and talk through everything.
Let's do it.
So can you make that happen, Rob Beeler?
Those are two kind of different. I mean, I can get something in front of them.
I don't want it in front of them. I want them to be on the. I want 4 boxes in here.
I get it. The getting the ask is easy.
Okay.
Getting the right ask is the hard part. So give me some work. I might take more than one quarter.
Maybe we need a year to figure that out and really go after this and take our time and do it the right way.
There's, to your point about where we are in the industry, maybe we just take it up a notch and go
a little bit.
That again, I would love to. I'd love to get Scott Galloway to crack up. That would be a goal of mine.
Hold on, I'll take Peter Kafka from Vox too because I think he's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, 100%. 100%. Yeah. All right, MSG, as always, an absolute pleasure with this. Everyone, get the report. Email Matt. I'll make sure that's in the video piece of this. And as always a lot of fun. And can't wait
I'll see you again in like 45, 47 days for the publicly traded company analysis.
Yes, absolutely. That'll be great. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.